Hello, humans. Welcome to Game Development Operations from start to finish. And we're going to start talking about some more serious things. We've set up the source control for now. We have an idea of how the pipeline is going to work like. We have an understanding of what's the overall process and what kind of software you're going to need. But just before we begin with that, let me just really do a quick overview again of what we're going to need. So you're going to have to, like I said, I'm not going to explain to you how to download and install all this stuff because frankly, if you can't do that, like I already said, you probably, you should learn how to do it first. So you're probably gonna need Visual Studio just in case to have it. All the dependencies for that as well, the libraries that come with it. Make Human is a nice thing to have. It's free, so you don't really need you don't have to pay for it. And it's nice to have around in case you need a humanoid, to animate real quick. Although we're not going to be doing that in this project anyway. Maya LT 2017 or whatever year you're currently doing this. Now, Unreal Engine is actually, well, obviously you're going to need Epic's launcher to download Unreal Engine. But the funny thing is, as of this day, they've announced that in 4.16 and upwards, they're going to have mesh editing tools in the engine. So depending on the speed of this tutorial series, we might actually catch that. And if that's the case, this might be very interesting because you'll be able to animate stuff inside the engine, and also probably they're gonna have some basic tool set when it comes to mesh editing. And if that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised if you'd be able to add skeletons and joints, etc. Now, obviously, Maya will excel at this, at least for now. I don't know in the future when you're watching this, Maya might be obsolete, or Epic's engine might be, might very well be perfectly capable of doing most of this gaming related asset creation stuff himself. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually have a separate modeling section, just like Visual Studio has its own modeler, an FBX viewer, etc. So unless they have it, and even if they do have it, I still recommend you download Maya, because I suspect Maya will, they're gonna have automated stuff. They're gonna make it easier, basically, to create some skeleton rigs and make it easier to, have some animation. Basically, it's good to know Maya, all right? Unless something has drastically changed in the future when you're watching this. Photoshop is also another staple. Now, I'm gonna be using Spriter here. But you might want to use Photoshop, and if you want to go with the free stuff, maybe try ZBrush, but like I've never used them. So this is Photoshop CC or CS6, whatever it is. Yeah. But yeah, download some software that can edit 2D assets such as textures. Okay. Preferably with some a healthy set of filters and some layers. We're gonna go over this stuff real quick. I doubt that in the future Photoshop will change that much. The workflow is pretty good as it is right now. After that, now we probably won't be using Substance Painter and Substance Designer. Like, we probably won't be going to the Substance in general. But it's I recommend you buy it if you're serious about doing games. Okay, if you're serious about making games, you're gonna save yourself a lot of work with Substance Painter and Designer, because these things are like, they supersede Photoshop in many ways. I mean, Photoshop is more for photos, as you might imagine. So, I just keep this as a backup. You wouldn't really need Photoshop in most cases, although it's nice to have to know your way around it, because designing different aspects of your game. UIs, menus, usually you do this in Spriter because it's just better for vectoring graphics, unless you know Illustrator. But it's nice to be able to make a couple of banners or modify a screenshot, maybe add a filter of some sort. I mean, it's not a necessity. But I highly recommend having one. All right, next thing on the list is an audio editing program. In general, any audio programming is fine, but this one is free, and it's it's very good. A lot of professionals use Audacity. So if it's still around by the time you're watching this, I highly recommend you download it. It's, again, free. And as we already said, right, Perforce is free up to 5 users. So if you have more than 5 users, you're probably well aware of you probably already have this software anyway. Let's see what else. That's basically it when it comes to software. So it's not that much. You only need, well, Spacescape is well, it's for skyboxes, and like you probably wouldn't need it this first time we're about this, but it's a procedural generator for skyboxes. Obviously, get the if you want to check it out, get the latest version of the software. So anyway, now that we have the outline, I think it's time we we think about making a game. So we're gonna have to start with our project here. And before we begin with anything, before we even launch, open this launcher here and launch the engine, you're gonna have to do what I already explained in the first place: the design document. Remember, that comes first. Now let's open Draw.io. Draw.io. Okay, now forget about this. Okay, so what do we have here? Let's come up with an idea. Now, as your first game, you don't really want to be anything. You don't want to do anything fancy. You don't want to do anything high tech, right? Forget about like thousands of animations. Devil May Cry style type deal where you basically just making Dante's skill set and a move set will probably take you like ages by yourself. Okay. Also forget like big storylines, forget anything massive and grandiose, okay? That this stuff is going to come way later down the line. Forget about multiplayer. Massive multiplayer games, right? Oh, I'm going to make my own MMO, right? Just forget about this shit. Now, first game is always small, compact, and ideally you want to make it playable and enjoyable. But in general, you're probably going to suck at it, and your first game is going to turn to shit. And it's not going to be very good. Not both in quality and gameplay experience. But for this reason, it's best to take an already established idea and either improve upon it. Right, this is the best route. Right, instead of making something from scratch, it's better to take an established idea and improve upon it. Because if you take something like tanks. The tanks from the Nintendo days. Like, there's a game on Steam called Battle Tanks. It is exactly that, with a few more, tricks, a bit more arcadey. It certainly could have been better, but it gets the job done. It's fun, especially for local multiplayer. It captures the spirit of tanks from the Nintendo ages. So you want to take something like that, which is very simple and at the same time fun enough to be enjoyable, and at the same time basic enough that you can build upon it. Basically look for something where you can expand. Now the same thing applies for the design document. When you start making a document, make sure to build it modularly, right? Modularly. So you're going to start with, this is, for example, here's your game, right? This is the game. Whatever it's called. For now, it's gonna stay game, and this is your final result. Okay, this is what you want at the end of this. Now, your game is gonna substitute different things. So at first, you're gonna have to establish the genre. You're gonna have to establish a bunch of stuff. But in this case, we're gonna steal something because, like I said, your first project shouldn't be anything fancy. It should be as basic as possible. Your main goals will be to make it functional, controllable, and you try to make the controls as tight as possible. So we're gonna take Blobby Volley, a game which was developed by a German guy, I think. Blobby Volley. If you haven't played it before, it's a very simple game. There's Blobby Volley 2 for some reason. Yeah, there's some German guy that made it. However, I don't think he's actually been involved in this in any way for a long time. So if you take a look at these pictures, as you can see, it's a fairly basic game, right? You've got a ball, you've got two, blobs of jelly, and all they do is just, you play the beach with them, right? You play the beach volley with them, and whoever wins. It's up to score. So the game itself is fairly simple. As you can see, it even works on iPhone for some reason. I didn't even know that these things worked on the iPhone. But it supports a rudimentary multiplayer system in there. So you can play over the IP, and I'm not sure if this guy's still working on it or not, but we're gonna make an improvement of this game. Obviously, I think it's still for free, or you could probably buy something. I'm not sure. Yeah, obviously this is a horrible choice of font and color schemes, so we're not gonna take that bit. So essentially, what we're gonna take is the idea of having a beach volleyball between two entities, which will be controlled by a player and you know, the other one will be controlled by another player. Now, when it comes to AI, we'll think about this later, but that's why you need to establish your design document fairly modularly. So what I mean by modular? Well, at first we're gonna have player count. Oh, I think we should actually start like this. So, player count, right? You're gonna have a player count of, in this case, 2 for now. Okay, 2 for now, and you're gonna have, well, this is actually should be in the player category. So let's make an arching category, call it player. So anything above here is basically going to be what the player is going to experiencing. Okay, this is what he's going to see. Okay, this is where you have your gameplay mechanics. For example, the player count. When it comes to player count, you need also to, okay, maybe you're going to give me a better one. Yeah, so here, what kind of player count, what kind of character is it gonna have? Well, I'm thinking it should be a worm. All right, so we're gonna have worm like player character model, right? So these are your this is the character model that you're gonna basically use. Now here you'd probably be wanting some how should I call it, you should probably be wanting some reference assets, like 2D art, etc. You know, concept art. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, concept art. But if you don't have it, it's fine. I mean, anybody can imagine a worm. You know, if we were to take, well, I don't think I can remember a website here, Pixlr, yeah. So if we were to take something like, is this gonna let me do this in incognito mode, or do I have to freaking do this the hard way? Yeah. Forget about it. But point is, a worm is a very simple creature, right? You've got 1, and you've got 2, and you've got 3 pieces of them, and right, they all basically overlap, and you know, it moves. So this is going to be our surface area. By the way, let's hear from the game. This is the mechanical point of it. This is where you're going to duplicate this, put it down, and call it mechanics. So this is everything related to the player. This is everything related to the mechanics. So we're going to take this and we're going to say, I'm going to say single jump, double action. Okay, it means that after a jump, which is going to look like this, jump a particular height, let's say 2 meters height. It's a 2 meter high jump, which is going to be activated with a particular key. Let's say space bar. Right, this is your space bar. Now, here's a question. Now we're going to have a secondary. What's going to be the double action? So the secondary action will be again with spacebar, and we're gonna have a spin. So it's gonna be spacebar plus direction. Okay. There we go. So we're gonna have a spin, which is a spacebar plus direction. In other words, once you have your thing in the air, right? This is your worm. So you'll be able to actually spin it either this way or that way. Okay, and since we're going to have a ball, which is going to look exactly like a sphere, circle. Yeah, so this is your ball, and obviously what you're going to do is, if you rotate this way, it'll turn into a slam, okay, because you're going to have, you know, let's say, and this is good, this is your net. Yeah, this is your net, and it's gonna have to go over the net, and basically your worm will basically do this. If I can find the rotation tools, edit, rotate. No, you get the idea, right? This goes over here, and this goes over here, and this goes over here, and this is gonna, the tail is basically gonna slam the, this is not made for drawing, obviously, so as you can imagine, I'm having some trouble here explaining this to you, but I hope you understand what's gonna be happening. So in general, this is going to be our secondary action, right? You'll be able to rotate counterclockwise to lift it upwards, the ball upwards, and clockwise to, you know, slam it down. Obviously, this is only going to happen once you actually reach, you know, perform a jump. So you could either do this at the apex of your jump, right? Or you could do this earlier. Therefore, this is a double action jump. So we don't need this anymore. Okay, after that, we obviously need a you know, a level, right? I mean, what's going to be in our level? So let's duplicate this and put it on the right side. So this is our level. Actually, I should have duplicated this because you know, just to keep to keep it nice and tidy. This is our level. So this is basically the graphic department, right? You've got the player stuff, which is basically what they're gonna see, what they're gonna do, how they're gonna play. Mechanic-wise, it's you know, what exactly is gonna be happening behind the scenes. The level is, you know, what the player is gonna be working on. So it's important to actually have this here. Now in the level design, we're only gonna have one level, so you know, single level. Nothing fancy like roguelike stuff, anything where we basically you know, randomly generate levels. So nothing like that. Single level, and you're gonna have a net in the middle plus. Since we're copying the guy who made this, let's make it on the beach as well. So there's gonna be a ocean background and some sand. Right, so very simple. This is what your level is going to be looking like, and obviously after you got the jump, you also need the controls. So you know, let's say this is, let's move this down a little bit. So you're going to need a control set. So your control scheme is going to be the double jump, which is your jumping ability, and then you're gonna need a left right movement, and all of your controls will be limited to the X and Y axis only, right? In Unreal, if I remember correctly, Z was basically this way, which is, you know, front and back, as in, you know, from away from your monitor and towards your face, which is the 3D perspective. So we're going to be moving only from left to right and up and down. So that's why movement will be limited. Movement limited to X, Y, X and Y axis. If there's such a thing as axis. Now there is one if there wasn't. So movement limited to X and Y axis. So all of this stuff is relevant to the game mechanics and the control scheme. Now obviously we're going to have maybe a separate mode. Let's say, so this is a control scheme, so we can actually move this on the side a little bit. Like this, maybe down like that. And can we centralize it? Yes, thank you. And basically what we're going to have maybe are a couple of modes. So let's say, actually, we should probably call this on the side over here. So these are the modes. Okay. Now, obviously, the more complicated your game is, the more of these nodes you're gonna have here. And obviously, you can do different things. You don't have to follow my setup here, where I have a game which is your final result, and then you just go and, you know, basically drill down into what you want your game to be. So this is just what I use. Like, you don't have to do this. You can just have one tree like this if all you know, for all I care. Just let's see, edit, no, file, embed, no, where the hell is all this stuff? I can't remember. Oh, there it is. It was somewhere here. There it is. Insert vertical tree or something, and you can have your, you know, you can do this like that, and just keep adding stuff, you know. and just you insert it, and there's your tree, right? And you can maybe make your game, create your game like that. So you know, it all depends basically on what you want to do. Right, and you can see these are all the controls, and obviously your right click works here, so you don't have to click to front or to back. And there's actually shortcuts here unless they overlap with your browser shortcuts, so make sure that's a thing. But let's just get back to what we're doing. That's obviously assuming you want to use draw.io. You can use something else. Anyway, when it comes to modes, we're gonna have a single mode for now, and it's gonna be a multiplayer player 1v1. Right, this is a 1v1, and this mode is gonna have very simple 15 default rounds played. Sorry, 30 default rounds played. This is the round number. 30 default round played, and let's say you got your configurable. So the player can choose how many rounds they have. So this is what we're gonna have. We're gonna have a multiplayer mode where the host can choose one round, basically. Which round, how many rounds is the winning condition. So the winning condition is obviously the rounds. Then you got the multiplayer 1v1. You're basically going to say that this is going to be a host client connection. So this is the connection type. Now obviously you can draw one out of here and get some networking nodes. As you can see here, you can have some networking nodes, I think. Networking, yeah. So you've got a bunch of different stuff like cloud enterprise, like you got a sort of different connection speed. So you can set, like if you're using draw.io, you can set this up like this would be your data bank, and you'd have a server here. You can set it up whichever way. This would be a client to client connection, maybe. It's all up to you, but you can use all of this stuff. For some reason, this is actually part of a network. Maybe has something to do with nuking, from the scene, if anyone uses that still. But obviously, as you can see here, there's plenty of stuff and plenty of different diagrams that you can create. So just go nuts if you want to use this. I certainly have checked it out for a while. Anyway, so this is a host client type connection. In other words, there won't be any server, right? The same way we set up a server on, on Google platform. Although we could certainly do that, right? But for now, we're going to keep it as a connection type. Connection types. Right, so you're going to have, forget about this. So you're going to have your connection type here and your multiplayer mode, and you're going to have this right here, and this is going to be configurable. And then you probably could have something like a modifier here, which would be an outshoot. In other words, let's say, I don't know, let's say it's going to be a time bomb. Let's say instant death. Right, so there's the instant death, and the instant death mode. You're gonna have your balls, for example. Here, your ball will be a dynamite. Right, so let's copy this, and I forget dynamite like this. No, like this. Yeah, dynamite ball, and essentially, it's the rule set is 1 round plus explode. Or let's say a better one. We got 5 rounds. So this is basically what you're going to be doing. You're going to figuring out your game here. You want to make all your decisions here, so you later down the line you don't have to actually figure, oh, that's 1 round. Oh, maybe we should be making multiple rounds. All right. So let's say we're going to be 5 rounds here, and it's going to explode. Explode after 15 hits. Okay, and we're also going to make this configurable. In other words, the player maybe maybe removing the hits or increasing the hits. Okay, so configurable hits, let's say. Well, for now, let's just keep it configurable, because really, I mean, you can figure this out once you already have a working game. So essentially, it's all about adding the ability to configure it, and once the player can do it, they'll sort themselves out just fine. Okay, so there's your instant death mode, and obviously, the dynamite ball will have different physics. Different physics, like bounciness or stuff like that. Or maybe it might even have the same physics. The point is that it's going to be a different ball from the default one, okay? So in terms of mechanics, it should behave a little bit differently. And also, since it's configurable, it could be, could have different physics or not. But in general, what you're going to have is things going from here to here, right? Your different physics is going to be basically part of your dynamite ball. Your dynamite ball is going to be part of your mechanics, right? Assuming I can actually get us to, yeah, so this is going to be part of your mechanics, and it's going to feed only, it's going to work only in instant death type scenarios where players can do it. Obviously, your conditions for win conditions for instant death are configurable, and they also feed into the instant death game mode, which is actually a multiplayer 1v1 game mode, which is a part of them, which is a mode, right? So you do this here. The 1v1 is also configurable. In other words, the default one is 20 rounds, right? So perhaps I missed a node here. I should have made a default node and an instant death node, and they would be having different setups. Maybe I could have set up configurable as a modifier here, but this is a little bit messy. But I did it on the fly, and I don't intend to set it up again. So you're gonna have your connection type, which would be a host client, and maybe in the future you may add. Let's even put this here. Possible server. Maybe you might even release an SDK later down the line. Okay, so this is going to go into your multiplayer 1v1 connection types. Actually, sorry, my bad. This should be over here. All right, this is one of the connection types as well. So these are your options when it comes to connection types. Now, the dynamite ball is also part of the mechanics, so it's going to feed right into it. The control scheme is going into the mechanics node. See, this is basically how you're going to look at your game, and if it's going to, like, if it has some structure to it. Assuming I can get the damn thing to be aligned. For some reason, it's pissing me off, but whatever. Your left-right movement goes into your control scheme, which is constricted only to XY. In other words, it can go up and down as well, not only left, right. However, your control scheme will generally be allowable left-right movement, a plus jump, right? And it will only move on XY. Now, you might think, well, geez, left, right plus left jump. What's the plus jump? What's the big deal? But you can only jump left and right. You understand what I'm saying? You can't jump from and away. Which is handy because we're going to lock everything to X, Y, and Z. Sorry, X and Y. We're going to get rid of Z. Anyway, your double jumps are also part of your mechanics, so this is how your gameplay is going to work. Someone's going to either double jump or regularly jump in order to hit the ball. There's also a possibility from the control scheme where there is a no jump available. Well, this is actually later down the line. We're going to do this. But your player is there's gonna be two players. Okay, the character model will be a worm-like creature, which will also be configurable. We actually haven't finished here. Configurable, right? And we could even, like, you don't even have to do this. You could color code this. Be like, yeah, anything that is purple, for example, is configurable, right? But we're just going to do this the simple, easy way for now. So that's going to be configurable, like different color setups, for example, right? Configurable color. All right. That's how the player character will be, the player model. Now, the player himself will need to have a tactic. So tactically, which is basically game approach. Now, in most games, you can't actually read what you can just estimate what the player is going to do, because you're basically thinking that the player is a logical operator. Or I forget the name of the term, but essentially it means that you're expecting players to do the logical thing. So you don't expect them to do stupid shit, or you don't expect them to do things that don't make any sense. For example, for things like, let's say, there's two possibilities to make money. And the first possibility is to be grinding it out. The other possibility it is to be selling stuff. Now, let's say selling things is not profitable because it requires a lot of you can only sell high ingredient, high level stuff, and it'll the actual cost to put something on the auction is going to be very expensive. So as a logical thinker, you'd probably think, well, Jesus, it's faster to grind. But then what are you going to grind? Are you going to grind first level creatures? Are you going to grind the ones that you're able, the ones that give the most gold? So a logical person would grind the ones that give the most gold and are also the most abundant, right? So if you only have one boss that gives 1,000 gold, but instead you have something that are lower level creatures, but there are 10,000 of them, you can kill 1,000 of them with a single click, and they all give 2 gold each. Now, obviously, the choice would be to forget the boss and just go and collect kill the creatures for the gold required. So the same thing is here. You don't want the players to be having some weird thoughts. In general, this is, there's no way to confuse this, okay? It's very simple. You only got a left and right and jump. So unless it's a monkey, probably even a monkey will be able to play this game. But let's nonetheless try to, to see what kind of game approach we want. So the player's going to have a particular game approach, and in this case, it'll be a tactical approach and a skillful. Well, basically, it's going to be basically attack and defense options. So we're going to have to do this like that: attack and defense. So I thought I duplicated this. I'm sorry. Attack and defense, or offense, let's call it offense to be more precise. And essentially we're going to have 2 gameplay styles. Now obviously as you are attacking and as they are defending, right, as your opponent is defending, so you always be exchanging states with them. But on your defense, you probably would want to limit jumps and favor movement. Right, against this would be against smashes, right? So this would be versus smash, and then you're gonna have your high balls, and you could certainly do this, but for high balls, you'd want the player generally to actually try and jump, catch, and smash. Okay, so this is the general gameplay mechanic that we want to see. We want to see people who are defending against high balls to try to jump and smash them, and players who are defending against smashes to not jump and attempt to collect the ball from the ground. Because as a worm, let me get this pathetic picture here. As a worm, your ability to actually hit the ball, circle, seriously, does it actually look for for hits? So this is the ball. As you can imagine, as if you jump, you're gonna reduce your surface area, because we're gonna make it so that you reduce your surface area. In other words, the jumping is only for smashing, right? You want to jump when you're only sure that you're gonna be hitting this 100%, or basically when you know what you're doing. But in general, you'll be trying to get the ball from the ground, because you're basically going to have more surface area to work with, right, when your worm is flat. And when it's moving, we're going to animate it in such a way that it moves like an actual worm from the Worms games. So, it would be possible to time your movement with the ball and, get a particular angle so that the ball bounces over the net in a particular manner. So there's definitely a skill level to be had here. It's not a particularly hard game, but it has you can get pretty good at it. At least on paper here, that's how it works. So you've got your smash and your defense against high balls and low balls. For high balls and smashes. Now when it comes to offense, let me just add this to the game approach. Now, when it comes to offense, essentially it's the same thing, but in reverse. So what you want to be what you want to be doing against an opponent that's defending high is to try to smash it. In other words, when it comes to offense, you want to lift, intercept high balls. Right, this is your first option, and obviously, if you choose, you could also, maybe duplicate this first. Obviously, if you choose, you can play sneaky hits. In other words, close to the net. Close to the net. So first results in smashes. The other one results in first results in smashes. The other one results in a very low kind of how should I say it, ball, where if this is your net surface and the ball hits the net over here, it's going to be falling very close to the net, and the other player will actually, if they're out of position, if they're not ready for this, you will score a point. So it's a type of attack, right? Your first one is to intercept high balls, which would be here, and once they fall down, you want to use your jump or double jump, as in your jump with a second action where you rotate and try to smash it. Right, you can go over the net like this, or maybe you can intercept it down here and sneak it over the net like this. Obviously, this has an inherent risk of this failing, right? And you having to basically suffer a penalty of a point. Obviously, when it comes to offense, that's not all. You could also perhaps see offensive options should always be more than defensive in general, but obviously it's all about, like in this game, it's all about how the player decides to move. So it's up to you to basically figure out what they're gonna do and what the possibilities are. So when it comes to offense, they could also fadeaways. They could also fade away hits, slam the ball, because of this system where you spin when you jump, right? So if you spin backwards and you fade away, you could possibly get the ball in such a way that you intercept it from high over here, but because you're fading away, the actual hit will be so slow that it'll barely go over the net. Obviously, this also has the same inherent danger where it could hit on your own side of the net. Yeah. Okay, and last but not least, when it comes to mechanics, we need to see how many times, limits. So let's say 3 hits of the 3 contact points, 3 times contact. I don't know how to say it, but you hit the ball 3 times, and if it's still on your side, you lose a point. So 3 hits max, point to enemy otherwise. So right, this is a very simple thing. It's basically it's a basic of volleyball. So let's just keep it in the game, assuming I can hook it up. If I can hook it up. Yes, thank you. Right. So we have our offense and defense. Let's just color code this for for simpler reading. So let's say our defense is going to be blue, right? And our offense is going to be obviously going to be red. Okay. And this is going to be the game approach, so the player will be actually part of the game. Mechanics are also part of the game. This is all feeding into your final product, obviously. The reason you do this like that is in case you have an inter-game connectability, or you have a website where your game needs to output something. Your game, for example, the database would actually go here and output something to the website, where the website has to read. To read back data, for example. But then again, you have the UI here. There's a lot more stuff to be said about this. So the more hard points your final product has, the better. But let's just keep it simple for now. The player, let's say the player is yellow. The mechanics are orange. The levels are purple, and the modes are this color, whatever this is. Obviously, this is the smallest bit of our game. We're not going to have to put a lot of effort into our level, and it doesn't really matter which way these these arrows go. So when it comes to levels, this is pretty fine in itself. Now the modes themselves, we already went through them, how they are part of the mechanics. We can also add to this stuff later, right? This is a modular design, so once we get to the UI, you can just drag one out of here and add a UI node, right? You can just add, let's say this is the UI packages, and just UI. And if you like a particular setup, let's say you have, let me just delete this because obviously this should go in the other direction, like so. So once you have your UI, you want to probably have some fancy stuff in it, like what kind of font you're gonna have, right? So this is gonna be your first added font. Then you're gonna have your color scheme, right? And you're gonna have density, which would be, if I can get it from somewhere here, UI density. So how much it clutters up the space, density. Right, and at the end of the day, you actually need to, to hook it up to the mechanics, because mechanically you're gonna have different information available. In other words, you're gonna have mechanically you're gonna have points. So when it comes to points, you're gonna have 30 default rounds which are configurable. So you're gonna have to hook this up into your UI, right? As part of your UI, like this. And then you're gonna have your jump availability. Maybe you want, maybe you don't want to do that. But let's say we want to put this out there. If there's some kind of a special effect, you want to have a timer, or maybe you don't want to have a timer, right? It depends on you. So if you have a timer, you also want to hook it up onto the UI. Really, in general, the UI is it's the final thing to actually be worried about. So like, I wouldn't be actually even bothering with the UI at this stage. Get the game to work first, and then make it readable to the player, because frankly, until you have a game, the UI is kind of quite pointless. Obviously this isn't working for me, so I'm just going to delete this. Anyway, what you want to do now is just save your document, right? You can save as a copy, you can save it on your device, on your browser, like whatever the hell you want. Let me save it on my device, just in case. Just put it on desktop. And this is the diagram which we're going to use, right, in the future whenever we try to edit this very simple and quite ugly looking design document. Obviously you're going to take take better care of your design document. Okay, you're going to take maybe this, right? You're going to put this at the back, right? You're going to scale it up, maybe have this section over here for color it proper blue, like this, if I can find it. Right, color it proper blue, and have maybe a particular text here, or some kind of class where you basically define this is your defense and this is your offense, instead of color coding everything differently. But all right, this is overkill for this particular project. Obviously, there's also other software you can use. You can even do this in a notepad. Okay, you can just notepad, and you can start writing. Okay, these are my mechanics, all right? And we got to do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. You got your bullet points. Word as well is fine. You can even do this as a presentation on PowerPoint, right? It doesn't matter, as long as you can read this and understand what you want to have in your game, okay? This is your idea. You want to put your idea on paper, be it digital paper, real paper, fake paper, or just some kind of drawings like this, or a table. It doesn't matter, as long as even if you forget, okay, this is the idea. Even if you forget, let's say you have this idea and you don't just quite make it, maybe in 5 or 6 years, you have the skill set, you can do this, or you have the time available. And like, even if you forget, when you open this document, you want to be able to understand exactly what kind of game did you envision when you had your idea, all right? And it's a good idea to actually get into a habit of putting all of your game ideas in a design document like this, because you never know what kind of an opportunity you're going to have in the future. And having your games in this format, right, not this particular format, but like basically saved as the idea being saved, and that means that you not only have the idea of how to make this happen, in other words, how to create this game, okay, and what kind of systems go into it, not just saying, well, I'm gonna make an MMO, right? I mean, like for an MMO, your design document would look maybe something like this. Okay, and it would fill the whole screen. This is your MMO design document. Okay, so and this is for a small MMO, because you have to actually define every single thing. Okay, how many inventory slots, how much money, what kind of money, why is the currency like that? You get the point, right? What kind of inventory? Attack skills you're gonna have, defense skills, what's the skill tree like, classes, right? All that stuff. Items, item rarity, chances of dropping from where, bosses, all that jazz is gonna be in your design document. So this is a simple game. There's not much to be said about this, and even so, I could still add a bunch of other stuff, right? I mean, I haven't touched the UI. We haven't even talked about sound yet, right? That's why I saved this, so that we can edit this in the future. But it has to be modular, right? If you have balls, if you have this, right, you probably won't be using Notepad++. If you have this, you essentially be going and having to search for it. Okay, so imagine you have a big block of text, and I don't even know how to do this. Yeah, my clipboard is full of commands from Minecraft. That's freaking amazing. But right, you get the idea. Okay, you want to be able to sort through this. All right, so you don't want to have to forklift a bunch of text just to get to the thing that you want to edit. Anyway, guys, this is our design document done. I'm apologize for my rambling. It's kind of late. I didn't get enough sleep, but I figured I'd better do this today while it's still fresh in my head. If you got any questions, feel free to ask them. But I don't think I'm gonna bother answering them, because this is quite simple, and maybe hope someone will. And if I do, well, you got lucky. All right, that's it, guys. Bye bye. I'm out.